Okay, glad for everyone to be here tonight. All right, so Bryan Parker is back and he is going to be going over something he's been studying, deception by blood. So this is going to be very interesting. Let's hear what Bryan has to say. Welcome, Bryan.
Well, hey, what's going on? Yeah, Shaya got a hold of me, and I was just sitting there thinking about maybe doing a YouTube on this topic. And thought, oh, this is probably perfect timing then. I'll just do it here with you. And you can do what you want with it. But, I think this whole deception that we've seen, it started long ago. Most of us are fully aware of that. And I'm not a Southern Baptist Bible thumper or anything like that, but I do see scripture as being, in a way, kind of a history book, you know what I mean? And it's, I think, portrayed to people in a way that would be palatable to them, something they would understand, if that makes sense. And, in Genesis, it talked about you bruise his head and he will bruise your heel, and kind of the curse of the serpent seed, has been put that way before as well. And I remember a few years ago when I first heard about them talking about all the presidents being related and things like that. I thought, well, hey, that would make sense. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of the way the New World Order works. Is they're still going to have their bloodline in there, but instead of them having to cut each other's throat for the job, they'll just let the people think they're voting and choosing. You know what I mean? When they're really doing it behind the scenes. So, and at that time, they were saying that, what was the president's name? He was the 8th president, Martin van Buren. They were saying Martin van Buren was not, as far as they could tell at the time, part of the bloodline, but they confirmed the other presidents were. And it was only a couple of years after that before they had found evidence that Martin van Buren was also part of this bloodline. And which actually makes total sense, is Martin van Buren, as the 8th president, his first language was Dutch. Most people don't realize that actually 7 out of the first 8 presidents weren't even U.S. citizens. There wasn't any such thing as a U.S. citizen at that time. They were all British subjects, okay? So people trying to say they were fighting against Britain and things like that, that really wasn't the case. It wasn't what was really going on. But yeah, so I mean, and people complain about, like, say, Obama. Oh, he was born under. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be. If you know how to read the Constitution, I mean, kind of read it with attorney's eyes or attorney's ears. You know what I mean? Like I said, 7 of the first 8 presidents weren't even U.S. citizens. They were all British subjects that were operating as commander in chief. And then looking at that and looking at other bloodlines, across the world, you look at Europe, the bloodline of Garcinda, which they tracked back to 1250 AD. All right. And through that bloodline, tail bloodline, that's the way from like King Charlemagne. I mean, they were spewing their seed everywhere. You look at what these kings and these emperors were doing, and if they wanted to pick out a girl that was about to get married, he could spend the night with her before her marriage day. That way, the king's seed was there, and it was promoting the king's seed throughout the country. Wow. So the male seed and you look at the male charts, and the male charts sprout out so many different directions. It's crazy. Well, you go to the Garcinda bloodline, and the Garcinda bloodline, and you follow the matrilineal bloodline, and it's pretty much almost a straight up and down tree. It breaks down into her 3 daughters, Joanna, Maria, and Annamarie. And now from those three daughters, it continues, and even some of the other maternal bloodlines from other nations, say maybe in further Western or Eastern Europe, they were even tied in with one of the sisters. So everything followed this Garcinda bloodline. And I remember listening, this all really kind of started coming together and make sense for me. So I remember listening to a lecture by a Jewish rabbi a few years ago. And in the interview, he was being asked, well, what determines if somebody is Jewish, And he said, well, originally it was always, if your mother was a Jew, you were a Jew, And it's kind of gotten watered down, supposedly, according to him. And where now it's like, well, if your mom or dad is a Jew, you're a Jew. And now today it's been watered down even more to where they say, well, if you practice Judaism, you're a Jew. You know what I mean? Whereas I think in their heart of hearts, they probably still believe if your mom's a Jew, you're a Jew. It's maternal. It all follows maternal bloodlines. Okay.
Mhm.
That's how the seed is passed, is through the mom. The male seed, the male does not carry the maternal bloodline to carry on. Right? It doesn't carry that same seed. Only the female does. The paternal bloodline is different, much different than the maternal.
Are you saying
If
that
they
women
want
have
to
a
go
seed?
and research,
Are you saying that women have a seed versus
they have a
the
what?
egg? Are you saying that women have a seed versus the
But-
egg? The ovum?
Well, a more true seed. Yeah, a more true seed gets carried on through the female bloodline. There was a show I was watching a few years ago, back when I had time for TV, and they were talking about arguing about the grave of Jesse James. Some people claim he died in Texas. Some people claim his grave is in Missouri, and it was actually taken before a Missouri judge. And this Missouri judge, I remember when I heard this, I sat back and was like, oh my God. This Missouri judge came out, and this was his ruling, whether or not they could exhume the body. He said, yes, I will allow you to exhume the body, but under one condition. Prior to exhuming the body, you have to come to me with 2 specimens of DNA from females in his family. There was a son reported in the Chicago newspaper or a male that said that, oh, he'll give his, DNA. Judge said, no. He said, I want the seed. I want this DNA of 2 females from his bloodline. Once you bring that to me, then I'll okay you to exhume the body and check it. Why? Because the only way they could really verify or validate if it was Jesse James was through the mitochondrial DNA. And that's why I laugh today at all of these shows, Maury Povich, baby daddy, you are not a baby daddy, and stuff. Because what are they doing? They're going and swabbing the guy's mouth, or whatever. No, you don't go and check the daddy. You go and check his sister, his mom, or his mom and his grandma, because that's the DNA you're looking for. If you're following the paternal DNA, you're following a bunch of junk DNA. Okay.
Is it like Haplogroup or something? Because I know when you do like the 23andMe, they have like the moms and then the father's line. And then there's certain indicators, the haplogroup for the fathers versus the mothers. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, yes. And, I would recommend to people to go and check out Dane Calloway on YouTube. Dane Calloway, his tagline is, I'm just here to make you think. And he's a Black American. I will never say African American. He's a Black American, and he does a lot of research. He's really good at it. And he'll blow that whole DNA stuff out of the water because
Say
it's all just a
Calloway
scam.
or Calloway? Dane
Calloway with a C.
Okay, Dane Calloway.
No,
Okay, Dane Calloway.
it's Dane. Dane. Dane Calloway.
Okay, I'll check him out.
Yep. Yeah, you'll find lots of good info from him, and I'm sure there's probably some black people that don't like him. You know, I've not seen a lot of negative stuff regarding him from his listeners, but I could see where some people wouldn't like him because he's blowing this narrative, the out of Africa narrative, totally out of the water. Okay. So anyway, this Garcinda tree, and here, let me show you the Garcinda tree. I just turn this just a little bit here because I've got it right there. It's gonna be a little bit hard to see, but up here, right there at the top, that's Mama Garcinda, okay? And that's about 1250 right up there. All right, and it comes down here, and you've got her three daughters, Joanna, Annamarie, and Marie. And then they all come down, each with theirs, but though theirs also seem to tie into each other through marriages and stuff, they still tie together. And you come down, and guess who you've got right down here at the end?
Obama?
You got Queen Elizabeth.
Oh.
No, well, he's tied in there somehow
Yeah.
because the presidents have all been proven to be related, but you've got Queen Elizabeth as well. Now, like I said, this is from Useful Charts on YouTube, and they've got a website, and you can go to them and you can look that up.
Useful Charts. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Right, and that's Useful Charts. But like I said, this tree that they did here, they went back to 1250 AD. Okay. I went and looked up some different resources as to, you know what, I have a hunch where it really might lead, because we know what the royal families really believe when it comes to the bloodlines, right? So I started doing my own research and following my own matrilineal links regarding these people. And I took it back a little over another 500 years. I took it back to about 730 AD. And the names of all these people, because all these females through this maternal line, they are all like a countess, you know, or a princess. They're all marrying into royalty. Okay. They're all tied into royalty. And so you're going to see so many of these same names reappear and reappear and reappear. And actually, one of the interesting things is when I got down to like the second of the last name, the woman's name was Abba Autan. Okay. Now think about that middle, that I think that was actually her maiden name was Autan. Okay, just keep that in the back of your mind for a minute. But off from her, she was the second to the last one that I found. And this is about 730 AD. Okay. All of a sudden, I found these links of people that had been doing other research. And to her, they had her linked as a great grandmother of Ferdinand I, of Charles the 16th from the Holy Roman Empire. They had her linked to President Rutherford B. Hayes. They had her linked to Winston Churchill. Now, if you look at the research, you know, regarding the presidents and them being related, you'll find that a couple presidents, I know the Bushes were related to Winston Churchill as well. And there was another one, I can't recall. It might have been Clinton.
Yeah, that young girl who did that little chart.
So yeah, all this becomes very fascinating. Now, I said to remember her maiden name, Autan, okay?
Mhm.
And it was spelled, how'd she spell it? It was Autun, Autan, all right? Um, and we know that these bloodlines go back into the time of the pharaohs as well, because the pharaohs weren't that far, really, in the broad scheme of things, weren't really that far prior to, say, 730 AD. All right.
Hmm.
And one of the pharaohs, you've got Akhenaten. All right.
Mhm.
Akhenaten was one of the names he chose. A lot of these pharaohs, they carried many names. So did a lot of the people in the Bible carry many names. That's why sometimes they argue about who wrote what in the Bible,
Mm.
because yeah, several things, especially like Old Testament, might have been written where they might have been referring to the same person but calling them by a different name, because they had a birth name that they were given. Then they would have they'd be given like a priest's name.
Mhm.
All right. And so they would carry multiple names, and normally like three during the biblical stuff. But some of these pharaohs might carry like 15 different names. Well, Akhenaten was a name that he chose. And, referring to him, I thought it was really interesting. Right after Obama became president, he went over to Egypt. And you can find this on Google, go to the Great Oracle. And he's standing in front of a statue of Akhenaten, King Akhenaten, or I was going to say Pharisee, same thing, Pharaoh
Yeah.
Akhenaten. And and Obama made a really weird statement. He said, He said, he looks just like me.
Mm.
Now, wait a minute. That's not what you would say, because he came before you.
Right.
You would say, I look like him.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think he was trying to throw, listen up, everybody. I'm a descendant of Akhenaten. Well, there's a story I've heard about Akhenaten that, and with a factual thing about him is you can find that, he wanted to really redo Egypt and make it his own thing. He wanted to bring in the arts, that kind of stuff. And he built his own city. And you can look it up and find this. And this city was called Autan, Aton.
Mm.
Or sometimes the T and the D were reversible. Sometimes it might be Adon, just because of their language. Sometimes it's translated Aton or Adon.
Mm.
Now, Adon. What do you think of when you think of Adon?
Adonai.
Uh, your mind goes to Adonai, right?
Mhm.
And there's a school of thought out there that Akhenaten actually received his name from information that he got from Moses. All right. And we know even by Moses' own self-admission, he said what? He said he had halting speech.
Mhm.
Right.
He stuttered.
So if Moses was he stuttered. So if he was talking to the Pharaoh and talking about the God he worshipped, he would say, Adon, I.
Mm.
He wouldn't have flowed with the Adonai. He would have had it broken up. The Adon and the I would have been broken up. And we know AI was one of the gods back then. AI was one of the big gods. It was a god of Egypt, as a matter of fact. And Sinai, if you look at Mount Sinai,
Mhm.
Sin was the moon god. So you've got Sin, the moon god, Sin, AI. AI is God.
Mm.
So you see it being used there as well. But I find it fascinating that, they are always showing us and telling us, to follow these paternal bloodlines. And we never really realized, maybe a scientist would, but that the DNA, the seed is really carried through the woman. That's where the strength is at. That's where the power is at, is in the woman. All right. If
How
you
about a lot of
look
like
at,
Hawaiian culture? They talk about the woman a lot of,
well,
in other cultures.
I would say, I would say maybe European and especially American cultures are very patrilineal. The man's in charge kind of thing. You know what I mean? I remember being around a lot of South American and Spanish families.
Mhm.
And the man always kind of seemed like he was in charge. But when you went home with them and it was just them,
Uh-huh.
oh, it's the woman that calls the shots. It's the woman in charge. You know what I mean?
The woman's the neck. She turns the head.
Right. That's right. She's the neck. Yeah. Even in American Indian culture, it was the woman that ran the family.
Mm-mm.
The men might go out and do the hunting and fight the battles, but the woman ran the house. All right. And things have gotten kind of twisted today regarding that. So if you look back in history, you see that they knew where the strength was. They knew where the strength of the seed was at. It was in the woman. And it was the woman's seed that was going to carry on through the bloodlines. And of course, the royals, their attitude is that they are carrying the seed of the Christ. And that's why they have the right to rule, the divine right to rule. It's because they're carrying the seed of Jesus Christ. That's what they believe in their hearts. And whether they are or not, I really don't care, because that is not what gives you authority. Your authority comes from the Most High, or at least that's where it should come from. And instead, today, they're tricking people into thinking that it's coming from the constituents,
Mm.
the constituents, the constitutors.
Yeah, I've also did a little bit of studying in some different organizations that I belong to, and they talked about your spirit man, or your spirit, and then you have your soul, and then there's your body. So as far as that prophecy about the seed, are you speaking carnally speaking, like as in physical versus the spiritual?
I'm speaking both physical and spiritual. I mean, if you go in and you study like right brain, left brain, male brain, female brain, the female aspects of you, the male aspects of you, what a lot of people don't realize is that the female aspect of you is actually the dominant. That's the power side. The female is the power side. People don't realize that.
Interesting.
And the Western twists on different religions and stuff has could totally reverse that. They don't want you to think that. You look at Western anything, or whether it's politics, the flags, or whatever. It's all about men. It's all about the patriarchs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our founding fathers, that kind of thing. And they're also going to be all. You pull up, do a Google search on the Great Oracle for flags, Western flags. Okay. And you're going to see a lot of red, white, and blue. All right.
Mm-hmm.
If you go and do a search for flags of the East, you're going to see, for one thing, you're going to see a lot of moons. A lot of them have a moon on there. Moon is the female symbol. Okay. The moon supposedly controls the female cycle, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, looking at those Eastern flags, you're also going to see 4 dominant colors. And those 4 dominant colors you're going to find are the colors of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The pale horse or green, the black, the red. That's what you're going to see on their flags. Totally different than the Western flags. I find that kind of fascinating. But though at the same time, the Western flags being red, white, and blue, what are those colors of? Those are the colors of Egypt. I posted something today regarding the Patriot's hat that the Pharaoh would wear, and it would be colored both white and red, because they had the Northern Kingdom, which was actually Southern Egypt, and they had the Lower Kingdom, which was actually Northern Egypt, and one was red, one was white, and wearing that red and white hat showed that he dominated both Upper and Lower Egypt. Well, at the same time, if you look at blue in their culture in Egypt, blue signified fertility, birth,
Water, life.
your everlasting life.
Mhm.
Yep, life, water, exactly.
So are you saying that
Bible talks about
the Northern Kingdom and the
the
Southern
living
Kingdom?
waters.
Did you say that the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom were reversed? Is that because of where they are versus where we are?
No, it was reversed because actually the Nile River flows in reverse. It doesn't flow from north to south. It flows from south to north.
Oh, interesting.
And so when they talk about, Upper Egypt, they're actually talking about Southern Egypt. When they're talking about Lower Egypt, they're actually talking about Northern Egypt. Just more stuff to keep people confused, I think.
Yeah, that reminds me of Iceland and Greenland. I had heard when I was in the military that they said that they had switched it. And a lot of people were saying, hey, I want to go
Yeah.
to Greenland because it's green and it's full of ice. We got 9 minutes left.
Yeah. Greenland is icy and Iceland is green. But not all the time, but in general, yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's just what I found, researching these bloodlines. And like I said, useful charts went back as far as 1250. I went back to 730. And I don't know if I'll really do an article on WordPress regarding this and put in all the names and stuff, because it's not really actionable information, but it's kind of cool to see. And it's kind of cool to see the names, because the names all connect with each other. The last name, province, is used quite a bit, which made me think of the divine right to rule. And all of these women were married to a king or a prince, that they were all tied into royalty. And imagine, now they went back to 1250. Imagine going back all the way to 1250 and finding all these people tied to royalty, including people who are ruling today. And then also going from 1250 back to like 730, and you're still finding the same exact thing. They are all related to each other, and they are all in politics or in governments. They're running countries. Yeah. So that's why I call this deception by blood, because we've been deceived on what the blood really is. And it was funny. The other day, I was traveling down the road and I saw a bloodmobile, and they had a big sign on the side of the bloodmobile that said, "Power in the blood." And I thought, wow, how true is that?
Yeah. And a lot of people in Christian circles, they're also singing songs like that too. So it's like a constant inculcation.
Yeah, power in the blood. Well, you know what? In my viewpoint, my humble viewpoint, you start talking about blood and being washed in the blood. I've got a friend. When he takes a shower in the morning, he imagines that he's being washed by the blood of the Lamb. And I hear that kind of stuff, and I just think, that sounds like freaking witchcraft to me. That sounds like ritualistic BS. When you start involving blood and being washed in blood and stuff like that, and as a Christian, you're washed in the blood of the Lamb. I'm sorry. Nowhere in Scripture did Yeshua ever say that you were going to be cleansed by his blood?
Hmm.
Nowhere.
Hmm. Interesting. Where do you think people are getting
People
that
just
from?
don't read it.
From the songs, just from music, maybe?
They've been indoctrinated by the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
The Vatican has indoctrinated the Christians with it. The Christians are still Catholic. I'm sorry. Has, who was it? There was a big TV preacher here like 4 or 5 years ago. He came out and he said, we're all the same family. The Catholics, the Protestants, we need to start getting along. We're all the same family.
Yeah.
Even Pope John
Kenneth
Paul
Copeland.
said that he considered the Kenneth Copeland said that exactly. That's the one that said it. Pope John Paul even said he considered the Protestants the sister church. Why? You can protest all you want. That doesn't separate you. Go ahead and protest. You protest to your mom and dad. What do? They tell you, you know what? Get off the floor, go to your bedroom and go to bed. That's what they do when you protest at home. Okay. Same exact situation.
Mm-hmm.
It means nothing. You haven't separated. And I don't know of any denomination out there, and there's over 30,000 Christian denominations.
Mm-hmm.
I have never heard of one that has ever written a writ of separation to the Vatican.
Didn't Luther?
I'll declare a writ of separation of the Vatican right now.
Was it Luther?
Oh,
Was it that nailed?
Martin Luther. Yeah, the thesis to the wall. Martin Luther detested the Protestants. He detested the Protestants.
Oh.
And when people try and tie him to the separatist movement, no, he had nothing to do with it. They kind of took what he was doing and ran with it. But Martin Luther did not believe in separating from the Catholic Church. He wanted to reform it. The Reformation movement. Well, when you reform something, you're not separating from it. It's not about going in and just fixing it. No, you walk away. You give it the holy middle finger and walk away.
Yeah, I thought that we've been told that he didn't like the indulgences that the Roman Church was doing. You know, give me cows and
right.
your goats and stuff, and we'll let you slide.
Indulgences was his main issue. And indulgences are still used today in society. What do you think your bail money is? You're paying an indulgence to get out of hell. You're paying an indulgence to get out of jail. They're using the same format in indulgences.
Keeps working, I guess. Satan.
Yeah, this is
the same thing over and over because it's working.
Yeah, the United States has been declared the new Rome. I mean, I've said it for a long time, but then I heard Benjamin Netanyahu on stage with the Secretary of State, and the United States Secretary of State said, yeah, United States is the new Rome, you know, and DC is the new Jerusalem. And Benjamin Netanyahu didn't blink an eye. And that's what I've always said. Rome never went away.
New Jersey sounds like New Jersey.
Well, you look at all these. Look at all these names of different cities and stuff in the U.S. They're names of cities in England. A lot of them are names of cities. Memphis. They're names of cities in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I did notice Maryland and Virginia. It's like the Virgin Mary. That's where Washington, D.C. is on the borderline of Virginia and Maryland. It's like Virgin Mary, and their architecture is like Rome. Capitolina Hill. I noticed that.
Yeah, it's all Greek. It's Roman. Everybody says that U.S. is a Christian nation. Okay, good. If it's a Christian nation, you go to Washington, D.C., walk around, because I've done it. Go there and walk around and see if you can find anything that resembles an adherence to the God of Abraham, Jacob, Joseph. Look around, see if you can. You're not going to see that. What you're going to see is all Greek gods. And on the top of the Capitol, as you pointed out, on the top of it is Persephone.
Mhm.
She's painted all black, and it's the only statue there that is not lit up at night. Why? Because she is the consort of basically Mercury, Hades,
Mm.
and they also have a rotunda for Mercury in DC.
A rotunda?
Yeah, there's a little rotunda you can go in, and they've got a statue of Mercury there.
Oh,
That's Hades. I
oh,
mean, that's Hermes. That's Hermes, the god that leads you across the river Styx. But yeah, Hermes, Persephone was the consort of Hermes.
well, we have less than a minute, and I was wondering if we can continue this. And let me go ahead and just turn this off now, and we'll do a part B if that's okay. If you have any more, do you think you have more?
I can go on for hours about some of this crap, but yeah, no, go ahead. And we'll save this if you want to record this part or whatever. But yeah, I think we can just kind of go freestyle. We've got other people with us for part B.
Yeah. All right, let's invite them. Thank you.
All right.